This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Time to talk with Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South. He joins us right now on the McClarty Daniel hotline. And Connor, been a couple of weeks. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. I think better than the Arkansas faithful. Who look right now? I feel a sense of guilt that has come over me as someone who played a part in setting some high expectations. But all things considered, I am doing well.
People are looking to blame media members for the expectations, but I always feel like the expectations, preseason went with a caveat. And that caveat was if the tackles hold, if they're able to progress, if they're able to, jump into a starting role for the first time in their careers and play good football, well, then this team will be good. That hasn't happened. And it kind of feels like it starts from there.
I agree. And you're reminded that in a season like this, you might feel like you have two anchors on the inside, but if you're weak at that position and if you're timing that with a scheme change to a more pass-heavy approach, that can be a disastrous combination. I mean, Arkansas is living proof of that. It's played out so far with this really daunting month-long stretch that they've had to endure, and it just doesn't get any easier with Alabama and the things that they're able to do getting after the quarterback, which I think Arkansas will see that up close and personal. And Dallas Turner has had a phenomenal year for Alabama. He feels like he's going to be living in that Arkansas backfield. There's just no reason that a team like this with K.J. Jefferson and Rocket Sanders should ever look up at the end of the game and see 1.2 yards per carry on the ground. That to me is just telling, and it shows you where this program's at right now.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. I couldn't remember a team. What I think Phil said, it was about 22 years ago since they've had a stat like that. Connor, I watched that Red River rivalry game, and I was impressed with both quarterbacks there. What were your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I was very impressed. I think the question with Oklahoma coming in was, all right, how are they going to really hold up against Texas? Can they flip that result last year that quickly? Everybody was in a little bit more in wait-and-see mode. I mean, the fact that they weren't even in the top 10 yet, despite the fact that they were the only team in the country entering last weekend that was top 5 in both scoring offense and scoring defense. And they came out there, and, man, I thought they really set the tone. They made Quinn Ewers uncomfortable in a way that Alabama certainly did. And Dylan Gabriel was as clutch as it possibly gets. Feels like I've been watching him forever. He was obviously somebody who started off his career most notably in my neck of the woods down here in Orlando, and seeing him come up clutch down the stretch with just a big-time drive. I mean, there is a reason why we were once high on Oklahoma, and the combination of Brent Venables with his defense and the Jeff Lebby offense, and we're seeing it play out. Oklahoma is absolutely for real, and I don't even think we can apply the Lincoln Riley logic to this team, the lack of physicality, because I think that they've brought in such different defensive players that they're now looking like a scarier team than what anybody could have predicted coming into the season.
Yeah, probably the first of two times that they play each other this year. And, the conversation over the national landscape of college football up until now for these first 6 weeks has been, man, this is a crazy season. We've got parity and everything. And now you look at the standings, Alabama and Georgia control the SEC. Texas and Oklahoma are at the top of the Big 12. You got USC and Oregon or Washington in the Pac-12. The Big Ten is still heavy in the East, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. The only league that doesn't shake out the way it usually does is the ACC, because everybody said Louisville was going to be this year's TCU. So maybe it isn't quite as crazy of a football season as we thought, at least not yet.
I agree. I went into this past weekend, specific to the SEC, saying, well, if we get 3 underdogs who pull off upsets, right, like in those 3 different time slots, that would be Mizzou beating LSU, then A&M beating Alabama, and then Kentucky beating Georgia. If those 3 things happen, this is 2007 all over again. That's the type of craziness we're talking about, not just within the SEC, but the entire sport. And instead, none of those 3 teams won. None of those 3 teams even covered. And we're looking up going, all right, well, Georgia's far and away the favorite to win the East. Alabama's far and away the favorite to win the West. And instead of talking about potential chaos, in my opinion, it feels a little bit more like we have a lot of the same people at the top. Now, what could be interesting, of course, is if we're getting some unique blood in the college football playoff, if USC is able to make that push, if Michigan is able to make a push to a national championship, in Texas, if Florida State, we could still have a unique playoff. It's just not necessarily shaping up to be the totally chaotic year that some were predicting in September.
Connor, what happened at the Miami Georgia Tech game? Was that as bad as Notre Dame having 10 men on the field to finish the game? What happened there?
Worse, even worse. Just because the clock was under 40 seconds, and all Miami had to do was sit on the football, just kneel. That's it, and the game is over. And instead, for whatever reason, I don't know what sort of communication breakdown there was with Mario Cristobal and Tyler Van Dyke, but to run a play there and then to fumble, all right, you should still be able to win the game, but then to allow Georgia Tech to go, 74 yards in 33 seconds. A couple of former SEC guys, Haynes King from A&M and Christian Leary from Alabama, had big-time plays to be able to win that game for Georgia Tech. Disastrous. Just the exact mistake that you cannot make. Even if you're only a coach making $500,000, or if you're a high school coach, you can't make that mistake, much less Mario Cristobal at a big-time program like Miami, where they were undefeated. And that's a game that they should have won against a Georgia Tech team that's been struggling this year. It was so unbelievably bad, just the type of thing that he's going to have to live with forever, and I don't really know what's going to allow people to get over that.
I want to ask about Alabama. Now that Jermaine Burton had a breakout game and Milroe had his best game as a passer, and against a good defense, and in a game where they couldn't run the ball with any success, A&M's defense broke through. They chased Milroe around. I think he showed a lot in that ball game. Is Alabama... Look, it's not the same as the high-scoring attacks that I guess we've been used to for the last 5, 6, 7 years, but are they back? Are they back where Alabama usually is?
No, they're not back to where Alabama usually is, from a sense of, okay, this team has real national championship upside. I don't think Alabama's going to win a national championship. I still, however, think that they're clearly the favorite in the West. And to me, it's all about getting to the SEC championship with one loss. That's the entire goal for Alabama. If they go 8-0 in SEC play and do so in this fashion, much like what we saw against A&M, where they play really good defense, they're a team that shows a lot of poise and doesn't necessarily have those just critical turnovers down the stretch, then yeah, I mean, we're talking about a team that will be back to that standard. I don't think they have that kind of upside, though. That's where I would stop short of saying that Alabama is back to having those sky-high expectations. I think what they did was incredibly impressive, and especially against an A&M front that dominated. I mean, they were clearly the superior unit, and Jalen Milroe kind of had to make the best of it. They had to find that go-to receiver. But yes, for anybody saying that Bama is going to be an 8-4 type team or something like that, that game to me put all of those concerns by the wayside.
Any chance Arkansas can go into Tuscaloosa and get a victory? And how do the Hogs get to 6, Connor? What do they have to do on the offensive side of the ball to get to 6 wins this year?
Oh, man. I'm going to say no to the first one. I'm going to say prayer to the second one. I don't know, guys. Like, this is bad. They're shuffling the offensive line mid-game, and they're still trying to find those options. Maybe what they did in the second half was a little bit better with rotating the center, and I don't know, though. I mean, unless you are basically saying we're going to try and find a pass-protecting back and try and have that be on the field at the same time as, like, Rocket lined up out wide, I don't know. I truly do not know. They need more of the quick-hitting passing options. I think that much is obvious. The problem is they just don't really have the receivers that are built that way. They got all these big-body guys in the portal, guys who are like 6'5", 6'6", who aren't necessarily there to go bust a screen loose. I mean, even Jaden Hazelwood, I think, would fit this personnel for what this team needs right now more than probably anybody on that roster. So I don't know that there's an immediate solution. I think you really have to get creative with Rocket's touches. Otherwise, he's going to be an afterthought. He's not out there to pass protect. And otherwise, you're going to be looking at an injured KJ Jefferson. And for me, that is just, and for all Arkansas fans, that is absolute worst case scenario.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.